Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Emily Bowie. I'm a producer and engineer here in Nashville, Tennessee. Today we're taking a look at my top 5 favorite Universal Audio plugins. Timestamps are available for your convenience, so feel free to skip around if needed. But if you'd like to help the channel out, please consider giving this video a like and don't forget to subscribe. Also, leave me a comment down below to let me know that you stopped by. So what are my top 5 favorite Universal Audio plugins? Well, the first on that list is the Neve 33609. The Neve 33609 was released in 1985, making it a relatively modern compressor, which evolved from classic Neve compressors like the 2254. The 33609 is divided into 2 sections. First, the limiter, and then the compressor section. Now in the circuit path, the compressor does come before the limiter. And everything here is pretty standard as far as compressors go, with threshold, ratio, and release times. Due to its stereo design, this is very desirable to put on the stereo bus or your mix bus. I have other tools that I like on my overall stereo bus, but because this is a stereo compressor, it's fantastic on group buses, such as drums and other grouped instruments. I use the 33609 on my parallel compression tracks on every single mix. Literally every single piece of audio eventually goes through a parallel that is touched by the 33609. Let's take a look at an example of how I have that set up. So here are my 4 parallel buses. These have all got compression going on those. But let's take a look at the drum bus here. I've got the 33609 on that. I do have the limiter in. All of these settings stay the same. These settings are even the same on the music bus here that we'll take a look at in just a second. Ratio is 3:1. There is 0 gain coming back through this. And that is because I have my gain structure of this parallel compression track bringing back in a dB of gain, and that right there is set with my fader. Recovery time is going to be at 100 and the threshold is at 0. What I'm looking for is just around 3 to 4 dBs worth of compression, because between 3 and 7 is when you're going to find the level of the hardware emulation distortion, and I'm just tapping the low end of that to add in some warmth and character. I do always have the limiter engaged. I just think that it sounds better in than out. So let's take a listen with the 33609 in on my drum bus and without it. The 33609 is just so versatile. It's literally made for groups, and it's possibly my favorite compressor. Moving on to number 2, the FATSO. Full analog tape simulator and optimizer. FATSO. This plugin offers analog characteristic and cohesiveness throughout your mix. The FATSO's input controls let you dial in harmonics and distortions, while the tranny and warmth features provide varying amounts of tape and tube tone. The warmth feature is going to replicate that treble saturation that you're getting through analog tape, creating a high frequency reduction for those transients. The tranny feature focuses on the low frequency saturation by adding mid-range clarity, helping bring out bass sounds of the fundamental frequencies. So with the focus on both of those areas, this is great as a parallel processing technique for vocals. Here's how I like to set that up. I've got a lead vocal here with 3 different parallel processing techniques. And the first one here is got the FATSO on it. This is the tone of my lead vocals. This is what fills it out, what pushes it out, without sounding thin and separated from the music. Here are the settings that I like to have. I like to have all 3 of these going at once.
Welcome to my home, away from home. You're gonna love me here. You're the best damn family I've ever had. We can always find the right, so don't worry, they got your back. Here's some gentlemen jack, hanging with my friends at the Hardtails Bar and Grill.
You know, there's nothing really out there that's quite like it and does what it does, and that's why this is one of my favorites, and it's very important to me. So now let's move on to some EQ. But first, if you are a Pro Tools or Luna user, I'd like to invite you to check out my brand new mixing course and my templates for each of those platforms. Using these templates, you get quicker, professional sounding mixes, and the courses can help you build your portfolio with the included multi-tracks, as well as an in-depth look at how I mix certain styles of music. It's also a really great way to help support the channel while learning great analog techniques that have been adapted to work completely in the box. Alright, number 3, the Chandler Curve Bender. Now this box has been said to be based on the vintage EMI TG12345 desk from Abbey Road Studio. It is a mastering grade processor, but finds itself a lot of the times on the mix bus because of how it can really sculpt the overall sound of a mix without it sounding too harsh. It also provides a large number of EQ points that are super helpful in dialing in those certain musical frequencies. And also those not so musical frequencies can be dialed down. The sonic signature and the EQ points alone make this my go-to hardware emulation stereo EQ. So let's take a look at that. I've got this on my mix bus right now, and really just using some 12K lift on that. Let's see what that sounds like with and without.
Welcome to my home, away from home. You're gonna love me here. You're the best damn family I've ever had. We can always find the right, so don't worry, they got your back. Here's some gentlemen jack, hanging with my friends at the Hardtails Bar and Grill.
Really gives it some presence, and that's really the only EQ point that I've got going on that. Let's check out some of the upper mids here.
Welcome to my home, away from home. You're gonna love me here. You're the best damn family I've ever had. We can always find the right, so don't worry, they got your back. Here's some gentlemen jack, hanging with my friends at the Hardtails Bar and Grill.
So that 3.6K sounds pretty good. Gives it a nice lift there in the mid-range. Another great feature that the Chandler Curve Bender has is the high pass and low pass filters here. Really nice. We can also change the structure of that, whether we need a shelf or a bell, and then the shape of those bell curves as well. Not to mention the mid-side processing feature. A lot of EQ points, makes this box so versatile, and you can really dial in to what you need that overall mix to sound like. Number 4, the Ampex ATR-102 tape machine. For obvious reasons, this goes on right before my limiter on my mix bus every single time. This tape machine can be subtle or fairly drastic in its sonic characteristics. What I love is the compression that you can get out of this that just adds that glue to the overall mix. I will actually go in and change the settings on every mix. I don't have a go-to setting for it. I like to individually dial that in using the different types of tape, speed, and the bias controls. All of these different controls work together uniquely, and I believe it works best when you find the right combination instead of just hitting a preset. So here's how I like to set that up. First thing I'm looking at is just kind of the overall input and what the levels are hitting. Then I'm gonna check out the different EQ settings here. The tone, these each have different tones.
Welcome to my home, away from home. You're gonna love it here. They're the best damn family I've ever had. We can always find the right, so don't worry, they got your back. Here's some gentlemen Jack, hanging with my friends at the
So this one has just a little bit more body, a little bit more punch to it. So that's what I need on this specific style of song. Then I'm gonna go through the different types of tape sound and the calibration of that and the size of the tape. Most of the time I am going to have the 1/2" tape. That's pretty much all I'm gonna be using when it comes to mixing. Then the next thing that I do is go over here and check out the bias on each of these and see which one I like the best. I'll go and switch them a little bit and dial that back in to see where it sounds like everything's just opening up.
Welcome to my home, away from home. You're gonna love it here. They're the best damn family I've ever had. We can always find the right, so don't worry, they got your back. Here's some gentlemen Jack, hanging with my friends at the Hardtails Bar and Grill.
And last on this list, one of my all-time favorite sounding plugins, the Capital Chambers. What can I say? This plugin just sounds amazing on everything. It does a lot, it can be subtle, and it always does what you need it to do. I'm always testing out different combinations. I also like to use the presets. The most common one that I use is, of course, Al's. Duh, he probably knew the chambers the best. But I do like to go in and test out a lot of different things. There's a lot of cool features on this as far as the microphones, the different chambers, the distance, not to mention all of the EQs and filters that you have on it, the width. This is a plugin that is touching 99%, if not 100% of every audio track. I typically use it as the chamber instead of just a vocal effects or just a reverb. So let's take a look at how I like to have that set up. Now the chamber is on one stereo track, but the way that I like to use it most of the time is just by having it as a chamber that I'm sending everything to all at once. So here we are, got it set on, you guessed it, Al Schmidt's The One presetting. Now I may have this tweaked just a little bit. I do want it all the way into the mix because I am controlling that with my parallel tracks fader. Not really getting too much into setting the EQs here. I've got a little bit of pre-delay on that. And this is how I have that set up. So these are all of my buses. These are all of my groups that have the chamber on there. And as you can see, I've got a little bit, just a little bit of all of them going to the chamber. Just going to the chamber, just a little bit of everything. Even the background vocals are going there. Also, a little bit of chamber from the lead vocal. What that's doing for me is it's all being sent there. And so the return of that is got a little bit of everything going through it. So it's constantly going. It's constantly bringing everything together and gluing it. To me, it gives it just a little bit of that sound that everything was recorded in one room. And most of the time these days, that's not the case. And if you're watching this, then you're probably like me and you get a lot of tracks to mix that people have made themselves in bedrooms. But there's just that little something missing, very subtle, of when we record each track individually, or even if they aren't necessarily tracks that were mic'd up, if they were just MIDI recordings or loops or something that was already processed and recorded and you're using that as your track, such as Easy Drummer or Easy Keys, things like that, splice tracks. But this way we can get something returned back in that's gluing all of that together, kind of like it's all being recorded together, because we've got that chamber effect coming back in, adding back into the overall mix that makes it all kind of sound like it's being recorded in one room.
Welcome to my home, away from home. You're gonna love me here. They're the best damn family I've ever had. We can always find the right, so don't worry, they got your back. Here's some gentlemen jack, hanging with my friends at the Hardtails Bar and Grill.
So there's my top 5 favorite Universal Audio plugins. If you enjoyed this video and found something helpful in it, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to see more videos like it. Also, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to check out my brand new mixing course and all the templates that I have available. And by just subscribing to the channel and to my mailing list on my website, faireairmusic.com, you'll receive an entire folder of free drum samples. It's the best and easiest way that you can help support this channel, and it allows me to keep bringing you new content. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. We'll talk soon.